One of the shows abruptly postponed amid the coronavirus outbreak was Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill at New Repertory Theatre, a show about Billie Holiday, the jazz singer with a turbulent life. The show's star Lydia Harrell recently joined me via Zoom for a conversation and a performance just for you. Lydia Harrell, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So Lady Day, a performance that hopefully we'll get to see soon, presuming that we get to be on the other side of this. But tell me, how do you find your way into Billie Holiday, and what Billie Holiday do we find at this time where she's had a turbulent life?
Yeah, to say the least, yes. This is Billie Holiday at, I believe, age 44, or right before she turned 44. It's 1959. She's gone through a pretty rough time, and at this point, she's just happy to be performing. And how did I find my way to Billie? I mean, I've always been a jazz singer for the most part. And so when I saw this role available to be auditioned for, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, I kind of have to do this. So I was very excited to see that they were going to do this show.
Well, in terms of jazz, where is Billie Holiday in the canon? I mean, who is she in the canon?
Wow. That's a really interesting question. I like that question. I don't know where she would be, but I do believe that she had her own unique style. She had her own timing nobody else really did timing quite like her. She sounded so relaxed, but also had the tone similar to a trumpet, which is interesting because after studying up on her more, I found out that Louis Armstrong was one of her main influences, which would make complete sense for trumpet. She just loved the way he felt, the feeling that you got from the music, and she loved the way he played, so she wanted to match that tone and that feeling as much as she possibly could. So I think she did a pretty good job of doing that without it being like mimicking, and more of just here's what my style is going to be with that influence. So I really enjoyed learning about that.
Let me just ask you, we are in unprecedented times. We've seen how hard the coronavirus pandemic has hit the arts community. Shows like yours have been postponed or outright canceled. How are you surviving in this moment? It's
been really tough. Not to like sound, sad or anything to have, sob story, whatever. But at the same time, I teach at Berklee College of Music. Seeing my students get sent home was just really a hard thing to see. Seeing all of my music and theater colleagues all seeing shows and gigs and things just canceled. I have a nice little community of people that I speak to in the film and TV part of the acting side of things too, and everything has taken that hit. Auditions have been postponed, theaters canceling. It's just, when we heard Broadway shut down, it was like, wait, what? Just Broadway shut down? Like, this is crazy. What I'm noticing is a lot of people supporting each other, which I really appreciate. I love seeing people doing their live stream performances and all the different things to just help support the people that need it the most.
Well, you are going to lead us out of this segment by singing What a Little Moonlight Can Do. I think we've all heard the song, but maybe don't all know what it's about or what she was telling us there. What is she telling us?
Her version of what moonlight could be. She was heavily into drugs. It could have been her drugs and her drinking. That's her moonlight, made her happy, made her function. Being up and singing for her is everything. A line that she said many times in the script was, "Singing is living for me." So I feel like just that alone is her moonlight, So also the relationships that she had, all of that brought this personality that she had out. So I think that's what moonlight is for her.
Well, Lydia Harrell, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll let you take it away as Billie Holiday from the upcoming Lady Day at Emerson Bar and Grill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a little moonlight can do. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do to you. You're in love, your heart's a fluttering all day long. You only stutter 'cause your poor tongue just will not utter the words I love you. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Wait a while till little moonbeam come peeping through. You'll get so you can't resist him, and all you say when you have kissed him is ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Wait a while till a little moonbeam comes peeping through. You'll get so you can't resist him, and all you say when you have kissed him is ooh, what a little moonlight can do.
Lady Day's director is Summer L. Williams, also the co-founder and associate artistic director of Company One Theater, which has suddenly had to make some very difficult decisions. Summer L. Williams, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, I have no doubt we'll all be back together again soon, at least I hope. But Summer,
I hope so.
we just heard a performance from Lady Day at Emerson Bar and Grill, and we're in the process of getting that underway. I mean, tell me what it was like to have that be shut down.
Quite frankly, not surprising, given what was kind of happening across the country, and the way information was kind of rolling out about it. I got notification that districts were closing schools, and I just looked at everyone in the room and said, I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but it would be so irresponsible for us to like not stop what we're doing and get to the grocery store and get to medications that you might need, et cetera, et cetera. I had no idea that it was going to result in this, and I unfortunately think there's like still more to come. But it's really odd to go from doing all the things to not so much.
Well, let me ask you, what we saw the sudden mass closure of museums and theaters and actors suddenly being out of work. What do you see as being the immediate widespread impact of all of this?
I think it's going to be devastating. And I think it's going to be really devastating if we don't take control of what we can take control of and work hard to make sure that institutions don't perish. We know that there are lots of fantastic orgs in the Commonwealth that are large, that are well-funded, and they're going to get hurt, and they're going to feel it, and they're going to run a deficit. But that's a deficit for some. I think for other organizations, it's survival. This isn't a moment of, if we can't pivot, if we don't have any other options, I think there are a lot of orgs that are going to go down, and that's awful for our cultural landscape.
Let me just interrupt and ask you about your own organization, Company One Theater. I know you have your season coming up. Your season is about to launch in the next couple of months. What's the decision making that you're having to do right now?
So we are looking at the numbers. Company One Theater, as you know, we are at the we build community at the intersection of art and social change. And so it's really hard to build community if you can't get folks together. And so we've had to postpone our spring show. We also are contemplating what it might look like to postpone the majority of our season, our 2 shows, and figure out, can the following season absorb it? Which is a tough conversation, because do we take the risk of dramatically slashing our programming, and doing what we can to maintain paying our staff members and paying artists, or and then risk a great deficit, because we're going to be highly dependent on individual givers. We're going to be highly dependent on foundations to help us continue to do the work that we are doing, that we have been doing, that we're known for doing.
Well, give me a sense of what the landscape is right now. What has happened to all of the directors, the actors, the costume designers, the stage management teams who've suddenly lost their jobs, and we don't know when any shows are going to be starting up again?
It couldn't be more frightening. People are needing to go into their savings, and that isn't sustainable. And so often, folks who are working as artists and strictly in that sector, or maybe picking up side gigs, maybe working in the restaurant service industry, they're being hit in multiple ways. It's unprecedented. And if we don't figure out a way for the folks who support that local artist economy, like people who are casting local artists, in their shows, who are producing with local playwrights, who are working with local designers, if we don't figure out a way to infuse those companies, those production houses that are doing that work with the team, where are those folks going to turn when we can kind of rise from this?
Do you foresee a possibility that the arts landscape is going to look entirely different on the other side of this? Or more bluntly, is everyone going to survive this?
It's going to shift dramatically. And this is controversial and hard to hear, but we cannot only create resources for larger institutions who may have large endowments, who may have reserve funding. I'm talking about figuring out how we are going to save the small companies like the Theater Offensive, who they're doing very specific work with queer and trans people of color centric. Like, that is a crucial sector within our arts community. And there's real potential if those companies, if we overlooked, that we are going to drastically and profoundly shift what has been a really flourishing, thriving Boston theater scene and arts community. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous for a host of reasons.
Let me just end on a positive note, if we can try to find one. But in a circumstance like this, where are you finding art? How are you getting the art out?
Really making sure that we are de-siloing in such a way that we make sure that the mom and pop operations of the theater community are really able to not only survive this, but be able to thrive afterward. And so a lot of my energy has been spent thinking about what could forward look like if we all were to be resourced. What can forward look like if we were all dedicated to building up our local creative economy? And that gives me hope.
Well, Summer L. Williams, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully things will work themselves out so that we do get to see the full play of Lady Day at Emerson Bar and Grill.
I hope so too.
Not just the excerpt we saw earlier. Thank you again so much.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for using your platform to help. It's really important.
My pleasure. Thank you again.